Early life. Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin was born on October 7, 1952, in Leningrad, a city in the Soviet Union, now called St. Petersburg, Russia. His family lived a simple life. His father, Vladimir Spiridonovich Putin, served in the Soviet Navy during World War II and later worked at a factory. His mother, Maria Ivanovna Putina, was a factory worker. They lived in a small apartment shared with other families, called a kommunalka. Life was tough. Leningrad had been through a terrible war, and many people, including Putin's family, struggled to get by. One of his older brothers died during the war, and his parents worked hard to raise him. As a boy, Putin was small but tough. He got into fights with other kids and learned to stand up for himself. He loved sports, especially judo and sambo, a Russian martial art. These sports taught him discipline and strength, and he later earned a black belt in judo. Putin was a good student, but not always well-behaved. He described himself as a bit of a troublemaker or hooligan in his younger years. He also became interested in the KGB, the Soviet Union spy agency, after watching movies about secret agents. He wanted to serve his country like the heroes he saw on screen. Putin went to Leningrad State University to study law. He learned German, which he still speaks fluently. After graduating in 1975, he joined the KGB. He trained to be an intelligence officer, learning how to gather information and work in secret. In the 1980s, the KGB sent him to Dresden, East Germany. There, he worked as a liaison with the Stasi, East Germany's secret police. His job included collecting information and keeping an eye on political events. He was good at navigating complex systems, a skill he learned in the KGB that would help him later. In 1989, when the Berlin Wall fell, Putin saw big changes. People in East Germany protested against the communist government, and the Soviet Union was starting to weaken. Putin later said he felt the Soviet Union disappeared during this time, which upset him deeply. He returned to Leningrad in 1990 and left the KGB in 1991, just as the Soviet Union collapsed. This event shaped his belief that Russia needed to be strong to avoid chaos. Rise to power. After leaving the KGB, Putin started working in politics in his hometown, now called St. Petersburg. He became an advisor to Anatoly Sobchak, the city's mayor and one of his old university professors. Putin was loyal and worked hard, helping Sobchak run the city. He became known as someone who could get things done, even in a messy system. When Sobchak lost his re-election in 1996, Putin needed a new job. He moved to Moscow, Russia's capital, to work for President Boris Yeltsin's government. In Moscow, Putin climbed the ranks quickly. He started as a deputy to the Kremlin's chief administrator. By 1998, Yeltsin made him head of the FSB, the KGB's replacement. Putin was tough and focused, and people noticed. In 1999, Yeltsin picked him as prime minister, a top job in Russia. At the time, Russia was struggling. The economy was weak, and there was fighting in Chechnya, a region that wanted independence. Putin took a hard stance, sending troops to Chechnya to stop the rebels. Many Russians liked his strong leadership, especially after years of problems under Yeltsin. When Yeltsin resigned on December 31st, 1999, he named Putin acting president. Putin was not well known, but he quickly gained support. In March 2000, he won the presidential election. Russians saw him as a leader who could bring order after years of trouble. Oil and gas prices were rising, which helped the economy grow. People's lives got better, and Putin became popular. He promised to protect freedoms. But over time, he tightened control over the media, courts, and political opponents. Presidency and leadership. Putin has been Russia's leader for over 2 decades, either as president, 2000 to 2008, 2012 president or prime minister, 2008 to 2012. He is the longest-serving Russian leader since Joseph Stalin. His time in power has been marked by efforts to make Russia strong again, but also by controversy at home and abroad. First terms, 2000 to 2008. In his first 2 terms, Putin focused on fixing Russia's economy and making the country stable. He introduced reforms like a flat income tax of 13%, which helped businesses grow. Poverty in Russia dropped, and the economy improved. However, Putin also centralized power. He took control of TV stations and limited opposition parties. Some called his system a managed democracy because elections happened, but the government controlled the results. Putin faced challenges early on. In 2000, the Kursk submarine sank, killing 118 sailors. Putin was criticized for staying on vacation and not accepting foreign help right away. In 2004, Chechen rebels took over a school in Beslan, and 330 people died when Russian forces stormed the building. These events hurt Putin's image, but he stayed popular because many Russians valued his strong leadership. In foreign policy, Putin wanted Russia to be a major power again. He opposed U.S. plans for a missile defense system in Europe and criticized the U.S. for acting like the world's boss. In 2007, he gave a speech in Munich warning against a unipolar world led by the U.S. He also built ties with countries like China and Iran. Prime Minister and returned to presidency, 2008 to 2012. Russia's constitution didn't allow Putin to run for president again in 2008. So he picked Dmitry Medvedev to be president and became prime minister himself. Many believe Putin was still in charge behind the scenes. In 2012, he returned as president after winning the election. Some Russians protested, saying the vote wasn't fair, but Putin stayed in power. During this time, Putin continued to strengthen Russia's role in the world. In 2014, after Ukraine's pro-Russian leader was overthrown, Putin sent troops to take Crimea, a part of Ukraine with many ethnic Russians. He also supported rebels in eastern Ukraine, leading to a conflict that continues today. The U.S. and Europe put sanctions on Russia, but Putin said he was protecting Russian interests. Later years and controversies, 2012, present. Since 2012, Putin has faced growing criticism. At home, he cracked down on protests and jailed opponents like Alexei Navalny, who died in prison in 2024. He also passed laws limiting free speech and controlling the internet. In 2020, Putin changed the constitution to let him stay president until 2036, raising concerns about democracy. In 2022, Putin launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine, calling it a special military operation. He said he wanted to protect Russian-speaking people and stop Ukraine from joining NATO, a Western military alliance. The war caused thousands of deaths and led to sanctions from the U.S., Europe, and others. Many called Putin a war criminal, but he said he was defending Russia's security. Putin's foreign policy has also included supporting Syria's government in its civil war and building ties with non-Western countries. Some say he wants to challenge the U.S.-led world order. In 2024, he pardoned American journalist Evan Gershkovich and others in a prisoner swap of the West, showing he can negotiate despite tensions. Personal life and legacy. Putin keeps his personal life private. He was married to Lyudmila Shkrebneva from 1983 to 2014, and they have two daughters, Maria and Yekaterina. He is rumored to have other children, but he doesn't share details. Putin enjoys sports like hockey and horseback riding, and he often shows himself as a strong, active leader. Putin's leadership is controversial. Supporters say he saved Russia from chaos and made it a global power again. Critics argue he destroyed democracy, silenced opponents, and started wars that hurt Russia's economy and reputation. His belief in a strong, centralized Russia comes from his KGB days, and his view that the Soviet Union's collapse was a disaster. Vladimir Putin's life is a story of rising from a modest background to one of the world's most powerful leaders. His time in the KGB shaped his ideas about strength and control. As president, he brought stability to Russia, but also limited freedoms and started conflicts that changed the world. Whether seen as a hero or a villain, Putin has left a big mark on Russia and global politics. His story is about ambition, power, and a desire to make Russia great again, even at a high cost. 10 lessons we can learn from Putin's approach, with a balanced view of his successes and controversies. Discipline shapes success. Putin's dedication to martial arts like judo and sambo taught him discipline, focus, and resilience. He earned a black belt and still practices these sports. This shows a consistent effort in building skills, whether physical or mental, can prepare you for tough challenges. Lesson: Commit to personal growth and stay disciplined to achieve your goals. Understand systems to gain power. Putin's KGB training and early political work in St. Petersburg showed him how to navigate complex systems. He learned to work within rules to gain influence, like advising Mayor Sobchak and later joining Boris Yeltsin's team. Lesson: learn how organizations or systems work to find opportunities and build influence. Project strength to build trust. Putin's public image, whether riding horses, playing hockey, or taking a tough stance on issues, projects strength. Many Russians supported him because he seemed like a strong leader after years of chaos. Lesson: confidence and decisiveness can inspire trust, but balance it with authenticity to avoid seeming fake. Adapt to changing times. When the Soviet Union collapsed, Putin shifted from being a KGB officer to a political figure. He adapted to new realities, moving from espionage to government roles. Lesson: be flexible and ready to pivot when circumstances change, using your skills in new ways. Control the narrative. Putin tightened control over Russia's media, ensuring his government's message dominates. While controversial, this shows he understands the power of information. Lesson: shape how others see you by communicating clearly and consistently, but respect truth and openness to maintain credibility. Loyalty builds alliances. Putin's loyalty to figures like Sobchak and later his own allies helped him rise. He surrounded himself with trusted people, many from his KGB or St. Petersburg days. Lesson: build strong, loyal relationships, but ensure they're based on mutual respect, not just control. Take calculated risks. Actions like annexing Crimea in 2014 or invading Ukraine in 2022 were bold and risky. While these moves sparked controversy and sanctions, they show Putin's willingness to act decisively for what he believes is Russia's interest. Lesson: take risks when you believe in the outcome, but weigh the consequences carefully. Learn from history. Putin often references the Soviet Union's collapse as a catastrophe and works to restore Russia's global power. His view of history shapes his actions, like opposing NATO's expansion. Lesson: understand the past to guide your decisions, but avoid being trapped by it. Stay calm under pressure. During crises like the Kursk submarine disaster or economic sanctions, Putin often projects calm and control, even when criticized. This helps him maintain authority. Lesson: stay composed in tough situations to inspire confidence, but be open to criticism to improve. Power can come at a cost. Putin's long rule brought stability to Russia, but also limited freedoms, jailed opponents, and started conflicts. His focus on control has isolated Russia in some ways. Lesson: pursuing power or goals is important, but consider the long-term impact on others and your own legacy.